At ease, brothers. Man, I want to share with y'all two things that will change your life today. Two things that will change your life today. And the reason I say things that will change your life today, not just because they will, but I understand that a lot of people hesitate on moving forward because everybody's in the phase of wanting something right now. And if it takes 3 months, if it takes, 120 days, if it takes 6 months to get, a change, then a lot of people just aren't patient enough, man. But these two things, brothers, will change your life today. And I'm talking about in the realm of moving forward. I'm talking about in the conversation of, when we see that higher version of ourselves, when we see that next level we're trying to get to, like we understand where we want to go. A lot of us in the very back of our minds, man, there's a small island just floating around of the life we want to live, right? So the two things, brothers, are understanding your identity and making a decision. Oh, so those are some simple concepts. But you have to understand, brothers, man, there are very few men who can check those two boxes. There are very few men who can explain their identity or even know their identity and have made a decision on moving forward. We're talking about the small, select few, brothers. So the first thing, man, is identity. And I've said it a number of ways. I've said that the first thing a man must ask himself when he wakes up in the morning is, who am I? Who am I? Nobody ever said, so, well, why is that the most important thing? Like, of all the things a man could ask himself, of all the boxes a man should check, why is that the first one? That is the most important box, brothers, because you got to understand this. That's what's creating your world. That's what's creating your world. In other words, if we refer back to Hermetic texts and they talk about how things are created, how thoughts are put into this ether or this thinking stuff or this God essence, and that's what creates physical matter. That's what creates scenarios. If we understand that that's what's creating our scenarios, creating our life, then we have to understand whatever thoughts we put into that juice is what we're getting. So if we understand that's the most important thing, it's like, what is that? What are those thoughts? Who is that person? Who am I? Your identity is what's creating the world. And I've said this a million times, man. I say, maybe I say this more in the circle than on the tube. I say, man, like a lot of people just need to be aware first that the world is responding to them. As opposed to people waking up, cutting the TV on, trying to figure out what's going on so they know how to adjust and recalibrate themselves to current events. The world is responding to you. Like the world you see today, the year you live this year is based on yesterday. It's based on your acts last year. It's based on your thoughts put into the ether last year. So that's why identity is so important, man, because your identity is what's creating. It's what's creating, man. It's the most important thing. Think about this. Think about even when you go into a bank to do business, or even when you get pulled over by a cop. What's the first thing they want to know? What's the first thing they're going to ask you? Cop says, let your window down. First thing he's going to ask for is your ID. In other words, before I tell you what you did, before we even talk about what's going on, before we talk about you speed or going to court, before anything takes place, I need to know who I'm talking to. I need to know what kind of energy is being put in the ether. That's all that's being said, bro. I need to understand the scenario that's taking place by understanding who you are. And the same thing goes for us personally, man. If we want to understand the nuts and bolts, the root of what's taking place in our life, all we have to do is identify ourselves, man. Identify ourselves, man. I know who was I on the phone with last night? I was on the phone with a brother from the circle last night. This might have been Trav. And I was on the phone last night and we were just talking about kind of the same thing briefly. And I said, man, you know what? I can tell like when I'm like when my life starts to get a little shaky, kind of a little out of whack, or I'm out of routine. I said, I was looking around, man, and the house might be dirty. I might have some mail stacking up in the corner. I might have some clothes in the corner sitting on a chair over 2 or 3 days. I said, when I see that, I understand something is not right, because that's simply a reflection of me. When I walk around the house, man, and it needs vacuuming, and I need to sweep and mop and all that stuff, I say, you know what? Something in me is doing that, because that's just a reflection of me. So again, brothers, your identity is everything, because it's what's creating. It's what's creating, man. So if you want to change your life today, brothers, the first thing you need to do is identify who. In other words, when you see that end vision, okay, this is how I want to be. This is how I want to be moving in the future. And you grasp that energy, that frequency, and bring it to your now. Make that your identity, because that's what's about to create your tomorrow. That's what's about to create your 2025. That's what's about to create your summer 2024. That identity, man. Identity, brothers, is everything. Then I'll say the next thing, man, as I said earlier, is when was the last time you woke up and did exactly what you wanted to do? When was the last time you woke up and said, you know what? I don't know what time it is. I don't know what day it is, but I'm just going to wake up and be great. Be my own version of myself. I'm telling you, brothers, you haven't achieved true freedom until you can wake up and do that. Now, I've been talking about what it feels like to wake up every single day and it feels like Saturday. Now it's time I show you how I got to that point. Now it's time that I'm allowing people to work with me directly. I'm not talking about taking some course and never hearing from me. I'm talking about working with me directly. I'm talking about you networking with the people I'm networked with. I'm talking about you learning exactly what I did to get from corporate America to true freedom. I've been talking about this freedom for so long. I've been saying every day should be Saturday. Now is your time to click this button and learn from me directly. Let me show you the way. Then I'll say the next thing, man, as I said earlier, is deciding. I'm gonna tell you this, man. Very few people understand the power in making a decision. Very few people understand the power of a singular truth. Very few people understand what the world does when you make a conscious decision and say, you know what, that's where I'm going, and there are no other options available to choose from. I'm going to tell you this, bro. The world bends over backwards to a man that moves in that manner. When a man says, this is my new identity, this is the direction I'm going, and I'm deciding there are no other options, you gotta understand. I mean, I'm talking about the inner workings of man. You gotta understand, when we say this world is governed by law, you gotta understand the heck you're stepping in. You have to understand the heck you're stepping in when you make a decision and there are no other options. What can the pendulum swing between at that point? The pendulum of creation can only swing between output. And if they're the exact same thing, if there are no other options, you have to get that thing that you're putting in the ether, bro. Identity and deciding, bro. You gotta understand, it's not the easiest of things, man. I'm not sitting there talking like it's easy. It's not the easiest of things. And I'll be honest, for some people, I'll say it like this. For some, it's easier than others. Some people might have a lot of weaknesses and may have areas they need to change and get better in. But when it comes to deciding and moving in a certain energy, some people just boom. Second nature. Everybody should be like that, but everybody's not, man. So I'll say this. For y'all brothers that have been deciding to move in a certain energy, you wake up or before you go to bed, you write down your play for tomorrow. Tomorrow I'm getting up at 4 o'clock, working out. I'm going to read for 30 minutes. I'm going to meditate for 30 minutes. I'm going to do X, Y, Z. I'm going to text my mom. I'm going to kiss the wife and pet the dog, and down to the T. Life is planned out. And then you go throughout that next day, man, and you're getting ready to go to bed, and you look back throughout the day, and you say, you know what? I didn't live that standard. A lot of guys will say, you know what? It is not me. Like I'm not him. And slowly just regress back to that old state. If that's you, brother, man, just get up again that next morning and do it again. Just do it again, man. Like, let's not let our daily failures keep us from winning the whole battle, man. Winning the whole battle, man. So if you lose some days, man, just keep going. And I'm telling you, over time, as you create that new hypnotic rhythm, it'll become you, bro. It'll become you. So again, man, it's identity and decision. And you have to understand, man, that this battle going on inside of you, it's simply jihad. Let's go that way. It's simply what Islam calls jihad, the battle within oneself. In other words, when you identify this new destination and you become that person, but you got to understand, it's not just, you're not finna just skip through a flower bed of roses. There's going to be a battle inside, man. That's when you have to put the walls up. That's when you got to cut the music down. That's when you got to cut the ringer off, bro. It's going to be a battle. But I'm telling you, bro, on everything I know, if you just wake up every single day and go to war with that old self, just continue stepping into that new version, brother, I'm telling you, it's guaranteed to pan out for you. It's guaranteed to pan out for you, brothers. So again, man, change today. If you want to change today, man, two factors. Identify yourself and decide, brothers.